Subscribe to the channel and listen to non-trivial stories every day. I'm Brandon, I'm 35 years old, and until recently, I thought my life was on a pretty stable track. I've been married to Morgan. She's 33 for almost 10 years now. We don't have any kids, but we do have a goofy golden retriever named Max. We own a small house in a quiet suburb outside Seattle, a place with tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors who wave as they walk their dogs, the usual suburban vibe. I work as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company downtown, and Morgan works as a fitness trainer at a local gym. For the past 6 months, though, I felt like something was off between us. Nothing dramatic, just small signals. Morgan started wearing more provocative outfits when we went out, even to casual gatherings. She joked that she wanted to up her style game, so I shrugged and let it go. She was also on her phone a lot more, texting, giggling sometimes, then shutting down her screen whenever I approached. We had a few arguments about it, but she insisted it was just gym clients, scheduling sessions, or harmless group chats. I decided not to push. Maybe that was my first mistake. The real bombshell exploded when it came to my friend Luke, and eventually I discovered it wasn't just Luke. She'd apparently tried hitting on multiple guys in my circle, but let me start at Luke because that's how I found out. Morgan's always been extroverted, but in the last year, she became downright flirtatious with men around her, especially at parties or double dates with friends. She'd laugh a little too long at jokes, stand closer than usual, maybe put a hand on someone's shoulder. On the surface, it could have been chalked up to her being friendly or having a naturally touchy personality. But I'd see the subtle tension in the guys' eyes. Some looked uncomfortable, some looked flattered. Meanwhile, the women in my friend group teased her or gave her side eyes. No one said anything directly to me about it, though. I remember one instance about 4 months ago when we were at a game night with Luke and his girlfriend, plus some other couples. Luke was demonstrating some silly dance moves, half a joke, half a fiasco. Morgan jumped up and joined him, pressing her body against his in what felt like a borderline inappropriate way. People laughed politely, but I felt a twinge of discomfort. I told myself I was overreacting. Morgan was just being fun, right? After the dance fiasco, I confronted her in the car ride home. Me, trying to be calm. You seemed extra touchy with Luke tonight. What was that dance thing about? Morgan, shrugging, half smiling. Oh, come on, Brandon, it was a silly dance. We were just goofing around, you know how Luke is. Don't be so jealous. I dropped it, but the uneasy feeling never left. Luke's girlfriend gave me a weird look at the end of the night, as if to say your wife's crossing a line. Or maybe that was just my imagination. But something definitely shifted in the dynamic. As weeks passed, Morgan would mention Luke more often, out of context, like, Morgan. Oh, you know, Luke texted me the funniest meme earlier. He cracks me up. Or, Morgan, I saw Luke at the grocery store. We ended up chatting for 20 minutes. I'd raise an eyebrow. He lives across town. Why was he shopping in our area? She'd shrug and say it was a coincidence. I started suspecting that they were texting regularly behind my back. But each time if I asked for details, she'd either say it's personal, just silly jokes, or I told you, we're just friends. Luke, on his side, seemed more distant from me at our usual gatherings, like he was avoiding any direct conversation. I remember once after a guys' night at Dave's place, Luke left early, brushing me off as if he was in a hurry. Something was definitely off. The actual confrontation happened at a casual Saturday barbecue hosted by our mutual friend Daniela. She'd invited about 15 people, a mix of couples and singles. There was a big yard, music playing, an inflatable pool for the kids, though Morgan and I have no kids, so we just chilled with the adults. Morgan was wearing a tight summer dress, a bit more revealing than usual. I tried to ignore the worry in my gut, focusing on talking to Dave and his wife, but I kept noticing Morgan drifting toward Luke, who was there solo because his girlfriend was out of town. She'd lean in, touch his arm, laughing at every joke he made. At some point, I lost sight of them. I asked a few folks, hey, you seen Morgan? They just shrugged. Then I spotted Morgan re-entering the yard from the side gate that led to the driveway, smoothing her hair, Luke behind her looking flustered. My heart pounded, but I had no proof yet. My mind whirled with the worst possibilities. But here's where the situation took a turn. Luke clearly had been looking uneasy all afternoon, and something inside him must have snapped. Because at around 6:00 p.m., after we'd eaten, while people sipped drinks, Luke took me aside. His face was pale. I recall it vividly. Luke, voice tense. Brandon, I need to talk to you about something important. It's about Morgan. I froze. What about her? I asked, anxiety spiking. Luke, look, I'm not proud of this, but she's been, messaging me nonstop, sending me explicit stuff. She's like aggressively flirting to the point it's uncomfortable. I was stunned. I managed to stutter. Are you serious? Maybe you're misunderstanding. She can be friendly, But, Luke, wincing, dude, I wish I was misunderstanding. But look, I have screenshots. She's basically telling me she wants me, that we should hang out privately, even though we both know you'd be mad. She's crossing the line big time. He pulled out his phone. In the corner of the yard, somewhat hidden from others, he opened a chat. My stomach flipped. I saw messages from Morgan's number, references to wanting to feel your body. I wish I could break free from the boredom. You can come over when Brandon's at work. Some were so explicit, I couldn't even read them aloud. I felt a mixture of fury, betrayal, heartbreak. My voice came out a whisper. Me. So you mean she's been trying to sleep with you behind my back? That's more than just flirting. Luke, soft sigh. She's basically been propositioning me for weeks. I tried ignoring her, but she's persistent. I didn't know how to handle it, man. I didn't want to blow up your marriage. But this is too much. I can't keep quiet anymore. He apologized repeatedly, clarifying that he never reciprocated and that he felt horrible for me. I believed him. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. I told Luke to wait, and I marched inside Daniela's house searching for Morgan. Found her near the kitchen, laughing with a couple of acquaintances. My heart pounded, sweat forming on my brow. I beckoned her. Me. Morgan, can we talk? Right now? She gave me a quick startled glance and followed me into the hallway by the pantry. I confronted her. Me. Luke just told me everything. He showed me your texts. How could you do this to me? Her face went from confusion to sudden fear. She sputtered. Morgan. Wha? I'm not sure what you're talking about. He told you what? He's lying. Me? Don't lie to my face. I saw the messages. You literally told him you wanted him in your bed. She went pale, tears forming. Morgan. I can explain. It was just flirting. I did mean it. I was bored, I guess I wanted excitement. Me, growling disbelief. So you happily offered yourself to my friend behind my back? That's not just boredom. That's betrayal. We started raising our voices. People in the living room heard. Daniela peeked in, concerned. Then Luke arrived, standing in the doorway, gaze on Morgan. Morgan turned to Luke, voice trembling. Morgan, why would you show him those texts? You said you keep it to yourself. We were just messing around. Luke, sternly. No. I never agreed to your game. You kept pushing me. I had to tell Brandon. This is insane. Suddenly, a small audience formed. Daniela, Dave, a couple others. Everyone realized a meltdown was happening. Morgan broke into sobs. I felt both humiliated and outraged. Among the hush in that corner of the house, I said the words that seal our fate. Me, you disrespected me, you disrespected our marriage. I'm done. This is over. I want a divorce. She gasped, tears streaming. People stared, murmuring. Some tried to intervene. But I was unwavering. She tried to salvage her dignity, telling me we should talk in private, so we stepped aside into an empty guest room. She cried, saying she never actually slept with Luke, that it was just talk. I asked why. She admitted, Morgan, I've been so bored, Brandon. Our life is stale. I guess I crave validation from other men. Not just Luke, others too. I never physically cheated, but I guess I was crossing lines with them. My eyes widened. Me. Wait, others? Are you telling me you basically tried to hook up with multiple guys in my circle? She stammered, no. It was just harmless flirting, but eventually admitted that she'd also been texting a few other mutual friends, dropping hints, testing waters, though none had gone as far as Luke's scenario. My shock gave way to an eerie, bitter laugh. Me laughing bitterly. You tried to seduce half my friends and none took the bait except you almost succeeded with Luke. This is insane. She sobbed harder. I realized with a strange clarity that the situation was almost comedic. My wife had basically tried hitting on multiple men around me, likely out of boredom or attention-seeking. The absurdity made me ironically want to laugh. In that bizarre moment, I realized how certain I was about divorcing her. Me, Morgan, I can't keep living with someone who not only betrays me, but also had no shame flirting with my close friends. We're done. She grabbed my arm, pleading for second chances, but I shook her off. Enough was enough. I left the party with my pride battered, but my resolve firm. I was divorcing her. People texted me that night offering sympathy or confusion. Tony and Dave were outraged on my behalf. Some said they'd suspected something was off, but never had proof. Morgan moved to her sister's place temporarily. Over the following weeks, she tried everything from tearful apologies to angry accusations that I was throwing away our marriage over something that never actually became physical. I told her emotional affairs and explicit offers to cheat are enough. That kind of disrespect can't be undone. We hammered out the divorce details. No kids meant fewer complications. She asked me to let her come back if I changed my mind. I refused. The final hearing took place 3 months later, and the judge granted the dissolution. She looked devastated, but I felt relief. The life I knew was gone, replaced by a sense of betrayal. But at least I had clarity. I parted ways with her. Our friends generally took my side, especially once they realized she tried the same approach on multiple guys. The Morgan fiasco became a cautionary tale in our group. Now I run a small condo near the office. I kept Max the dog since Morgan wasn't able to handle him with her new living situation. That's a small victory. I love that dog. I see some silver lining in the sense that I discovered her actions now rather than later with kids or a mortgage deeper in. Some nights I still feel the sting of betrayal, but I also occasionally chuckle, remembering how unbelievably ridiculous it was that she'd systematically tested multiple friends to see if they'd bite. Luke apologized many times for not telling me sooner. I forgave him. He never caved to her attempts, and in the end he did the right thing by warning me. Our friendship remains intact, though it's a bit awkward at times. Others in the friend group that she approached find it comedic in hindsight, though it's painful for me. I'm just grateful to them for having boundaries and rejecting her advances. Sometimes I wonder if she was going through some deep identity crisis. If so, I hope she figures it out, but from afar. I don't hold pure hatred for her. I just can't trust her again. The memory of her meltdown at that party, the hush that fell over everyone, and me blurting out I want a divorce still replays in my mind. It was humiliating but also liberating to speak my truth so publicly. I share this story now as a kind of catharsis. If there's a lesson, never ignore the red flags no matter how trivial they seem. If your wife or husband starts shifting their behavior, going out of their way to flirt with your friends, trust your gut. I tried to rationalize everything or assumed it was a phase, but it escalated until I found out in the most public, embarrassing way. At least I had clarity and I made my decision. That's how a single party revealed the ugly truth, and that's how my marriage ended in divorce.